So I'm sure some of you guys saw that right here on the Coloring with Jeff page that I just posted something about markers. Actually, right before I'm posting this vlog right now. It's very, very, very important because I want everyone to kind of pay attention to this a little bit because unfortunately, I'm getting asked all the time. That's not the unfortunate part, but the unfortunate part's coming up. I'm asked almost every single show, every day of the show, and I'm also getting comments from fans all the time. Uh, Questions like, which markers are the best to use? Is this one better than this one? How's this one versus this one? How does this one react when you do it with this? And um, the same people and a lot of other and some other people, they ask me or they comment to me and say, well, this artist said this one, this pro said use this one, I'll only try this one, stick with this because the pros use this. You can only take that as far as you can throw it. I'm going to be very honest with you. Here's my answer. And those of you who've come up to me at conventions, shows, signings, whatever, if you guys have seen me and you've asked me this question, or you've been around when I've answered it, you pretty much know what I'm going to say. It's up to you. It's whatever you want to use. There is no right or wrong answer. It's like art. There is no right or wrong way to do art. Draw an apple. Okay. Look at Picasso. Draw a human being. She had four noses. There really isn't a right and wrong way to use markers or to draw or to do anything pretty much in art. Now, you could be directed in kind of what you need to follow. If there's already characters there, you kind of have to, like if it's Spider-Man, for instance, you kind of got to follow how Spider-Man looks because he's been around many, many, many years. Same thing with any of those major characters, but when it comes to markers, you don't. There really aren't any rules necessarily. As long as you can work with them, as long as you're comfortable working with them, and as long as your fans love them, who cares? Use Crayola markers if you really want. As long as you can get the look that you're looking for and you can get that awesomeness in every single piece that you bust out and you're using Crayola markers, bless your heart. Bless your heart. That's all I can really say. So I got three different brands here that I want to talk to you guys about. Two of them I use all the time. One I just started using. I'm going to actually start using this weekend. So I'm going to start using three different marker brands with all of my commissions. And to kind of back up a little bit, so right here on the Coloring with Jeff page, this is actually all about my different techniques that I use for markers and for digital coloring. There's a lot of aspiring creators out there, a lot of colorists, a lot of artists. I want you guys to use this page as a reference. Like if you don't know what to do, you can always come over to the page and ask, hey, how do I do this? What about this? What about using this color over this color? That kind of stuff. It may take me, maybe a day to actually get back to you and email you back, depending on what's going on. But that's what I try to do in here is like, well, how did Jeff do? How did he work this piece? How did he work this arm? How did he make this look like it's 3D? That's what I want this for. I want this page to be a reference for anybody out there who's aspiring to be any kind of an artist, comic book artist, or colorist. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. So I'm going to start with the first one, which pretty much everybody knows about. This is the one that every fan walks up to me and says, well, this is what this artist said and this pro said. You have to use these markers because they are the best in the field, and that's it. I mean, that's how you're going to make it. And they're right here. The Copic marker. Copic, Copic, potato, potato, however you want to say it. I call it Copic marker. So the Copic markers are fantastic. I actually use all the Copic markers for skin tone. They're pretty true to everybody's tone in one way, shape, or form. So they're not too peachy. They're not too light, like where it's almost like white paper. They're just really, really good. Again, that's any kind of skin tone. And then the Copic marker has two sides. There's a chisel. Sorry, it was kind of blending with my face there. And there's also the brush tip. And with a lot of the Copic markers, you can actually get the refills. So you can actually refill the marker when it runs out. That's pretty sweet. Those run roughly about $7, $8, depending on where you go. So now this marker itself, like I said, I only use this for skin tone. Well, you know what? Before I get to any prices, let's go over all the brands first. So that's Copic. What I use the most, I love them to death. That's actually Prismacolor marker. Prismacolor I like because what these actually do is they leave kind of streakiness. And if you guys have seen some of the work that I've done in marker, you'll understand what I'm talking about with the streaks. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but just in case. So Prismacolor marker, they have two different kinds, but this particular kind that I use has a chisel edge. I call it chisel. I'm sure it probably has some other edge. Flat edge, chisel, screwdriver. I've actually heard screwdriver edge, which is kind of weird. But they also have fine tip. Sorry. So these are the ones that I use all the time. Love them, love them, love them. Every so often I'll use them on skin tone, but not so much because it comes out a little too peachy and it just looks a little off. I'll get to the third one in a minute. So the Copic markers, I'm going to go back to price. So the Copic markers, great markers. I only have a few of these, and that's only because I use them for skin tones. These markers. So I went to Dick Blick today, and I had to kind of stock up on some markers. I got a few commissions I got to work on. And the prices of these markers are just getting outrageous. I mean, they really, really are. They're so high, but they do work if you know how to use them correctly. And yes, unfortunately with that, there is kind of a good and bad way to use them, but art is art though. I just said that earlier. So the Copic markers I saw, those are $7.50 at Dick Blick. $7.50 for this one stinking marker. And the refills, if you decide to get those with the refills, are $7. You may as well just get a brand new marker. Like, why you just refill it? That's the way that's me. That's me. That's not everybody. That's just the way that I feel about it. So $7.50, which is another reason why I don't use those a lot. I only have skin tones. They're just pricey. So the Prismacolor markers, a little more affordable. These actually at Dick Blick are $4.79, so just a little under $5. Depending on where you go, you can get them for $5 to $6. And depending on where you go with the Copic markers, you can get them anywhere from $8 to $9. One marker! One! That's ridiculous. So these are a little more affordable. That's actually one of the reasons why I trained myself on them, because I didn't want to have like $1,000 in markers with me at every single time. It's a lot of money. So Prismacolor, fantastic. I love them. I love the color. I love the shades that they have. There's so many different colors that they have. Love them. So as I'm looking around, I saw the prices of these. I'm like, man, I need about like 30 markers. Like if you add all that up, I mean, you're talking about a nice little chunk of change there on top of tax. Then I saw another setup, another feature that was actually right next to the markers. And it's actually Dick Blick's very own marker. And it's just called Blick Studio. Okay, so nothing, fancy, nothing not like a Prismacolor or anything like that. It's just called, Blick Studio. And these have a pointed edge. Our fine edge, our fine point. And guess what? They got chisel. Can't refill them or anything, but they don't have as many colors as Prismacolor and Copic marker, but they're getting there. When I first saw them, there was just, just a few markers, and I used them actually about a year ago, the first time, just a couple of them, and they worked out pretty well. They lasted a while, too. And believe me, I work these markers. So the Dick Blicks are pretty good, and I'm going to start using them this weekend on a couple of commissions, and I'm going to post them here. See if you guys can even tell a difference between the Dick Blick and everything else. So this is another Blick one. This looks almost very similar to Copic. Very, very, very similar. And this has the brush tip, just like Copic. And guess what? It's got the chisel, just like Copic, and about the same size on both. Now, how much would you guess that these markers are? What was that? No, not 5. Nope, not 7 or 8. You said it right there. You. $3.39 each. So, for what it costs you for this, you can get 2 of these. Why is that a big deal? I did about 1,450 commissions last year alone. So you figure out the math of me just buying these 2 brands, the Copic and Prismacolor, of me just buying these brands all year, And you're talking probably about maybe 30 to 40, well, about 30 markers at any given time going to the store all year. It's a lot of money. So today when I saw the Dick Blick markers, I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I was going to raise my prices on the commissions. I don't have to now. I'm going to keep them the way that they are. Because now that I found a marker that's actually about $1.50 or $1.25 less than Prismacolor and $4 cheaper than actually buying a Copic marker, I can now keep my costs down on the commissions a little bit more now. That makes me kind of happy. I don't like raising prices. I know, unfortunately, it's going to have to happen eventually because cost of everything is going up, including gas again. I just pretty much saved everybody a lot more money. So whatever was $40, I was going to raise up to 60 or 50 or 60. But now because of these markers, I actually found, I found that I can keep them the same. So really what I'm trying to say with this whole entire video is that it doesn't matter what markers you use. It's whatever you guys feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to be markers. If you want to use chalk, bless your heart, use chalk. If you want to use paint, use paint. If colored pencils, I use Prismacolor colored pencils. It's just whatever you feel more comfortable with and whatever makes the picture look good. Then use it. So don't listen to what a lot of people say when they say you have to use a certain brand. Copic is the number one. I hear that myself too. Like, oh no, you have to use Copic. I had a professional before I really got into comics and really started creating them. I had a professional tell me a long time ago that, well, you're never ever going to have any commissions unless you start using Copic markers. Now, last year doing about 1,250 commissions. The year before that doing just over 1,400. The year before that doing just over 1,300. I think I might know that you don't have to use the Copic markers in order to be successful in commissions. So that's all I'm saying. You guys definitely, if you have any questions, leave them on here. Any kind of feedback or anything, please leave it on here on the Coloring with Jeff page. Yeah, I kind of like doing these things every so often because I really want you guys to know that it's okay. You don't have to have the best stuff to be number one. You don't. Now, am I saying I'm number one? No. But I don't have the best stuff. And I have a ton of commissions. So just kind of take that however you want it. I think everybody should have the opportunity to work in this industry, to work in the comic industry, and do commissions for people. I just don't think it's right for someone to say, well, you're never going to make it. Who are you to say that? How do you know? I just don't like that. That really frustrates me when I hear that, when I have fans walk up to me and sometimes they cry. I actually had a mother and a daughter cry one time to me because I actually went over because I was coloring right there on the spot at a convention, and I was coloring right there, and I told the daughter to come around over here. She had a lot of questions for me, and I didn't really want to talk over the table, and it was kind of loud too. So came around by me. The mother's taking a video and pictures and all this kind of stuff. It was really cool. It was really, really cool. And the daughter's sitting there, and she's like, well, what about this? What about this? And asking me all these questions. She goes back on the other side of the table, and she comes back around the daughter, and she gives me a huge hug, and she starts tearing. The mother sees this, and she starts tearing. So she comes around the table. We all took pictures. And it was one of the best experiences I think I've had in the comic industry in a very long time at that point. Because that means, I don't know what they were told. I kind of got some things. They said some names of what some of the artists at that convention were saying to them. They actually did say that, your artwork sucks. You're never going to make it. Just give up now. Don't ever try coloring again. Flat coloring, you're going to make $5 a page. That's not the kind of stuff you want to hear. You got to put hope into people. So anyways, that's my little rant. That it just frustrates me when I hear that kind of stuff. So again, take everything I just said about the markers in stride. Don't be afraid to experiment. If you see different markers, try them. I'm going to try it with these. I'm going to see how it goes. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't work, hey, I'm only out a few bucks, versus a couple of hundred, So You guys have a great night. You guys have a great weekend. I forgot today's Friday. You guys have a great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you guys at C2E2, which is coming up next weekend. I'm going to be at T3, just thinking like Terminator 3. I'm going to be at Artist Alley T3 all weekend. I'll be doing some coloring there. I'll have my markers there. You can definitely ask me any questions you guys want. And this is also the first time that my animation studio, Jeff Balke Studios, is actually going to be at a major convention. So actually this will be the second time. So this is the first time this year that the studio is going to be at a bigger show. So we're really looking forward to it. We're very excited, introducing our own characters. And Jeff, I'm actually introducing a brand new sketch coloring mini print. So coming out, guys. Check it out. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Just ask me right on here. Have a good one, guys.